Okay, let's begin. Thank you for joining me this evening for Organize Your Day, Work Your Priority. I had a session this morning and I did promise to send out a recording, but we had several people who prefer to listen in to the webinar in the evening because of work, understandably. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to take about 25 to 30 minutes of your time, and we're going to look at organizing your day, figuring out your priorities, and working the 2 daily priorities every day. If you can hear me, awesome. If you can't hear me, let me know. I'm battling one of those colds that wants to put me under, but I'm in denial and I'm still plugging through today. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm on it. So once again, welcome and thank you for joining me. You're here because you're awesome and you know what you want out of life. If you can see the PowerPoint, let me know as well, because it's really important for me that you're able to see what I'm looking at, and ensure you have a pen and paper and that you can take some notes while you're at it. Once again, I appreciate the time that you've put in here today to develop yourself and your business. Thank you so much for being here. Any questions at all, throw them in the chat box while you have me here. So you're here because you're awesome. That part we have it covered. And you know what you want out of life, which is really important. You want things done and you want to see results in your life and your business. And what you're here for specifically is the blueprint to help you organize your day successfully. This is what we are here to do today. So I'm going to help you with that. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is fear. And I know it's strange because I told you that I'm going to give you the 4 steps to getting down to your 2 priorities, but we have to start with a mindset, and we have to start with what prevents us from actually figuring out our priorities and working our priorities. And if you really look at your situation and you take a moment and think about it, it boils down to fear. You know, we're driven by fear or desire, and I'm specifically going to talk about fear here now for a few moments. Fear is the root of procrastination. And it could be a fear of success, it could be a fear of failure, it could be a fear of pretty much, you know, the many different reasons that the fear is keeping you procrastinating or self-sabotaging your efforts to do what you know and you know what to do, to do what you know to do so that you can get your life and your business moving in the direction that you want. I want you to take a moment and think about how activities were rewarded or punished growing up or in your school situation. A lot of the things that a lot of our habits have been formed by our childhood experiences. So they were formed by the people who were our guardians, like our parents or the people who took care of us, and including institutions like school, church, any of the major institutions that shaped your worldview. So when you think about completing a task, what comes to mind if, say, you did not complete the task? What was the response to that? Were you told you can do better? Or were you told, you see, I knew it, you're useless? Or were you told it doesn't matter anyway? What happened when you completed tasks? And then what happened when you didn't complete tasks? Like if you didn't complete your homework, if you didn't complete any chores, if you didn't complete your science projects, what happened? So take a moment and think about the different ways in which your habits started to evolve based on how you were treated around the activities that you performed, whether you completed them, whether you did not complete them, whether you succeeded or whether you failed in them. So just take a moment and think about that. I'm asking you to go back in time. So I'll just give you a minute here so that you can just write a few notes. So what we find is that procrastination leads to disorganized days, and I'm sure you can agree with me. When we procrastinate, when we don't do what we're supposed to be doing at any specific time, then we chase down the next bright, shiny object. So maybe you're working on your computer and you get a call and you jump on that call, and that call leads you to go into a completely different task, and you follow that line. You end up spending a lot of time trying to catch up, or a lot of time beating yourself up, because when you look at your results, you have half finished projects. You're not finishing what you're starting. You're also you're not getting the results that you're looking for. So in business, it would be revenue. You're not getting the money that you had hoped or thought that you would be making. You don't have a plan, and you're not sticking to any plan. And disorganized days leads to a lack of results because we're not doing things consistently. So our habits are not consistent. And because they're not consistent and we're chasing ourselves and time gets out of our hand, we end up with nothing much to look at. And this leads to a loss of self-confidence. So not organizing our days and organizing our lives ends up impacting how we feel about ourselves. And we know that how we feel about ourselves is pretty much the driving force that will give us results, successful results or not successful results. When you lack self-confidence, when you lack the ability to trust that you will follow through with what you say that you will do, or that you will stick to your plan, then you don't really have a successful outlook on what you're getting into. A lack of focus is tied to a lack of self-confidence. And we started with fear because this really is the root. So I'd like you to think about the ways that you were rewarded or punished when you were young, so that you can get rid of some of those old stories. You're older now. And this means that you know how to deal with things better. So for example, you know for a fact that failure is necessary for success. There is no success without failure. There is another fact that failure is necessary for growth. There is no growth without failure. There is another fact that failure is necessary to bring out the characteristics that will make you succeed. There are no characteristics that will be developed in you to succeed without failure. Failure is mandatory if you are to succeed. And when you think about this from the adult point of view, where you don't fear punishment and you're not going to be ridiculed for trying and failing, you can let some of those old stories go. Instead, you're looking at wanting to work your processes, wanting to honor your commitments and your calendars and the day that you organize, so that you can look forward to more successful results over time. This comes from the focus, which is tied to self-confidence. So consider these few points as you move along your journey in the next few weeks or so. Well, who am I? This is a good point, I guess, to jump in and explain a little bit about myself. So I am Julia Katsibo, a career transition coach and strategist. I worked 17 years in private and public sectors in marketing, research, collections, sales, strategy, project management, communications, you name it. And I learned the systems that I now use to help me focus on what needs to be done in my personal and professional life for the results I want. Every single one of these Fortune 500 companies and the public sector, the government, they work on systems and they work on processes, and that's what keeps them moving. Whether someone's there working or not, they'll never go down. Not in that sense, not because of lack of people. And so I was able to collect some of the processes that work for them, that were successful, and I take them and I use them for myself, and I also create them for my clients and the people that I work with. I am also naturally an organized freak. I embrace this part of my personality in my adult years. I lean toward organization. I lean toward focus. Those are the things that make me happy and give me joy. Not to say that I don't have any weak moments, because I do. However, I set up processes that enable me to still do something even when I'm not physically present, or if I'm not 100% there. As an example, even though I am not feeling 100% to go out and network as I had intended with some networking events that are taking place in the city, I am able to do multiple webinars today. And so what I do is the next best thing. And I set up processes and a mindset that allows me to think about the next best thing in a no excuse zone. I'm also an award-winning entrepreneur. And as I mentioned before, career transition success coach and strategist. My goal is for people to successfully transition full-time into their entrepreneurial pursuits. And the reason for this is so that we have people working in what they're supposed to be doing for the greater good of their families, their own lives, their families, their community, society. Why do I do this? I know what a lack of focus feels like. I know I said that I am naturally organized, and that part is true, but I'm also a writer. I'm an artist at heart. And one thing that artists understand best is how much you have to toe the line between creating, arranging, being organized, and still being able to produce your best work. One of the differences between a writer and everybody has a book or everybody has a story to tell, but really the key difference between an artist and one who isn't an artist but has the tendencies is that one of them developed the discipline to actually carry out their function to the fullest. But I know what a lack of focus feels like. And I also know what a lack of focus feels like when you are driven and you know what you're doing, and then life hits you with a loss or with a different change of scene, a catastrophe, or just simply maybe even moving locations, homes. And it just takes you off your game for a little bit. So I know what that feels like. I also know what a lack of focus feels like when you lose your self-confidence. So part of my nature is trying out many different things and failing hard. But there are some losses that took me a little bit longer to recover than others. And in those instances, I lost my confidence. And when I lost my confidence, I lost my focus. And so I understand how this works with losing the focus and not feeling in control of your day as much as you'd like to. I also know that systems work. I have been able to successfully write and publish my stories and also run a business. And this is because I create systems that allow me to do this. And these systems give me the focus that I need. It's just getting rid of all the noise and then looking at exactly what it is that you need so that you can get started and get moving. Systems work for me. I believe in systems. And that's what I'm going to share with you today, is 4 steps to 2 daily priorities. These 2 daily priorities are the things that you're going to be looking at every day and working every day consistently. There are processes around that so that you succeed. So at this time, I'd like you to think about the activities that run your day, your business day. Think about the activities that are associated with your business, all the things that are associated with your business. And I'd like you to take a moment and write them down. So some examples would be placing calls. Some examples would be delivering products. Some examples would be creating events. All the different activities that are involved in your business and that you do or can do or should do day to day, take a moment and write them all down. I'll give you about 30 seconds or so, half a minute. So you should have a good list there of activities that run your day, business activities. And we're going to start to narrow your focus so that we can go down to your priorities. As well, we're also going to do some mindset stuff again, which has to do with the vision. When you have a clear vision, you're more than likely to succeed in following the plan that you set out for yourself. Without a vision, it becomes extremely hard to focus. So the first thing that we had to talk about was fear when it came to the mindset. because we need to uncover why we procrastinate. Why are we not organized? What are we afraid of? And then face it, deal with it, acknowledge it, let it go. And to finish off, get the mindset that has a really strong vision that drives you. So I'm driven by processes, but I'm also driven by a very strong vision. And I put a lot of work and effort in refining my vision so that it is overpowering. And in this sense, it doesn't really matter what happens in my day-to-day life. I have this vision that is just all consuming, and it takes over my space so that I am blind to all the other things that may make me want to give up or give in or turn away or turn aside. Like, I don't care. And that's the point where I'd like you to get to. When you get to the point where you're laser sharp, focused, then you are more than likely to succeed in reaching your goals. And reaching your goals is pretty important to me, because you're going to be happy, you're going to be working in the business that you love full time, and you're going to be enjoying your life the way you envision it to be. So we have your activities. We're going to now start narrowing your focus, and then we're going to do some mindset stuff. With your activities, no matter how disorganized the day may look, you have consistent habits. Your consistent habits are the ones that give you the result of your day. So if you have a disorganized day, you have consistent habits that lead to the disorganized day. That's how this works. When you look at your business activities and when you look at your day's activities, there are 1 or 2 or 3 habits that you're able to pinpoint, and those are the ones that give you the most results. So the first step was to think about the business and write down all the activities associated with it, right? Like sending out invitations, making calls, networking. Now I want you to look at that list and look at the habits associated with some of those activities. Like some of the habits that you already have around the activities. So an example for me would be with a lot of my phone calls, unless I'm seated down at a desk, I do a lot of walking. So, and this is something that I did at the beginning so that I could enjoy making calls. I did not enjoy placing calls. Like who wants to do that? Pick up this phone and say, hey, this is what I have. You want to buy? So I incorporated the calls with a pleasurable activity, which for me is walking. When I walk, I talk. I talk, I walk. And I was able to put those two together, and it increased my call volume because it was now a pleasurable action. So that's just an example. The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, states that roughly 80% of the results come from 20% of the causes. Now, you know the habits that I mentioned before, just 1 or 2 or 3 of those habits are responsible for most of your life's actions. Where you are now is as a result of a handful of habits. Another example is, one job is responsible for most of your income. There is this one job that is primarily responsible for bringing in most of the money into the house. Another example of the 80-20 rule is a few clients are responsible for most of your revenue. So you may know 100 people, and it's 20 of those people who will give you most of the money that you receive from your business. I love this principle, the 80-20 rule, because it applies to pretty much any aspect of life, and it informs me on what to look at. When I look at, say, my health and fitness goals, the 20% of my activities include the daily exercise and watching what I eat. And that is directly tied to my results, to how I am. If you look at pretty much just any aspect of your life, like I just want you to just search through your mind, and you will see how it's very few things that you do that lead to the majority of your results. It's very few places that you go to that lead to the majority of your results. You may know many family members, but it's very few of those family members that lead to the majority of your family relations. You may have many friends, but it's very few of those friends that form your friendships and friendship groups. And what we're going to do now is we're going to apply this 80-20 rule to our list of activities. So step 2 to narrowing down our focus is to look at your activities that you wrote down, and then to circle the ones that are directly related to sales. The ones which, if you put an equal sign, it's directly related to sales. An example could be having a conversation. Having a sales conversation leads directly to sales, because it is from that conversation that you'll get that, yes, okay, I'll have this delivered by this date, or we can start our services on this date, equals sales. So take a moment and circle all the activities that directly lead to you receiving money. And they shouldn't be too many. It should be very few of these many activities that contribute to your business. It's few of them that actually translate into cash. And if you have any questions at all, there's the chat box. Please ask me your questions while you have me here with you. I'd love to answer them. Anything that's related to what we just talked about. So by now you should have a list of things that you've written down that contribute to your business. And of them, you should have circled the few that directly lead to sales. And step 3 of our process is that we're going to pick the top 2 of those activities that you've circled. If you're fortunate, you already got here. But if not, then look at the things that you've circled and then pick the 2, 1, priority 1, priority 2. Pick the 2 that give you your results. The examples that I have here are events and calling prospects, because events equals money. I mean, you have an event, you host an event, you go to an event, it equals money. And calling prospects, again, equals money. So think about the ways, one of the best ways to think about this is to remember all the times that you've earned revenue, and then write down the steps that led you to that actual receiving the money. And it doesn't matter who you met, where you met, or how, what took place. You can always narrow it down to 2 activities that eventually led you to a transaction in which money exchanged hands. And those 2 activities are now your daily priorities. So we have these 2 activities that we must, do on a very regular basis, if not every day. But every day there's something that we must do toward the 2 activities. And in step 4, what we do is we build processes around the key activities. So for example, if we'll take the example of events and calling prospects. It's great that we know, the 2 things that bring in the money, the events and the calling people. But that doesn't really tell us what to do every day. That just tells us what we're supposed to be focusing on. Where we get helpful is in step 4, we build the processes that ensure that we are working on events and calling people every day in one way, shape, or another. And the processes must be repeatable, straightforward, and measurable. The processes must be that this is something that I do every day, and it leads me to either the filling of an event, planning of an event, speaking at an event, or follow-ups, or calling people or fulfilling sales agreements. And so that's what I mean by processes. It's the processes that become habits that we do every day that lead to our majority of the results. So for me, my business model is based on events and conversations. And so all my processes are geared toward events, how I go through the different stages to talk to people at different stages, speaking at events, hosting events, collaborating with others on events, that sort of thing. All sorts of events, because events are not just your live events. A webinar is an event. An actual physical contact on the phone. Or face-to-face, but also on the phone. And I have processes in place that allow me to rinse and repeat without overthinking, without, focusing too much on, okay, so what am I supposed to do today? There's a plan. And that's what you want, is around your two activities, you want processes. For this, you're going to need a clear vision. A lack of vision equals a lack of processes. What's your end goal with your business? These are the questions to ask yourself periodically, over and over again, until you're just plain irritated by yourself, because you want to have these answers crystal clear in your mind as you go through life and you come against challenges. Your end goal is going to be your motivating factor. So for me, my end goal is more than just getting the revenue. For me, my end goal is reaching as many people as I can and making a really dynamic, powerful impact on their lives so that they can do what they're supposed to be doing, so that they can get on with their business. I am purpose-driven. I am driven by my own ulterior motives of getting as many people active and happy in the workforce as possible. And this is what drives me beyond having a successful business that makes money. And this is what allows me to do the repeatable processes every day. This is what allows me to focus on my two activities and the processes around them every day. And it's out of that drive and out of that focus and out of that vision that I have now the habits that allow me to do this most days, if not every day. And for a lot of business people, and maybe this is you, we sort of know what we're doing and where we're going, but that vision is not as crystal clear as it should be. And without a clear vision, you will not succeed in making processes around the two activities that you have selected. And I have an amazing, amazing gift for you for this. Learn how a clear vision will help you achieve your goals. There are parts to a clear vision that I teach you, and you fill out those parts to the clear vision so that you can find your own and turn your activities into achievable goals. This is in the form of a webinar on October 7, 2016 at 1 p.m. It's on a Friday. It's online, it's free, and you get a copy. And in this webinar, I show you how a clear vision will help you define your focus and break down your key activities. This is beneficial because you've already determined your two key activities. And with a clear vision, we'll now be able to break down your activities so that you can know your steps, so that you know what it is that you're doing every day, your actual steps that will drive your activities, that will produce the most of your results. It's a blueprint that has parts to it, and you'll see how the different parts help you articulate your vision for yourself and for your business. And this is what you're going to be leaving with. Because it's on a Friday at 1 p.m. and you may or may not be able to join, I still ask you to sign up because you'll receive a copy. This webinar is valued at $49.99 plus HST, but it's yours for $0. So you'll receive the live seminar where we'll be speaking one-on-one, and a free recorded copy to keep forever, and the parts to a clear vision. I have a URL on the screen that I invite you to use to sign up for this free webinar on October 7th. And I'll also ask that you take another listen to the recorded webinar, this one that we just had, so that by October 7th, you've got your key activities down and you're now ready to work on your vision so that you can get the different processes that you're going to set up to perform with your key activities. Once you work out the processes for each of these key activities, it does make life a lot smoother because you set up something that's pretty straightforward, something that's simple, something that's standard, and it goes a long way in giving you your 80% of your results so that you can now focus on actually just doing the work, not finding out ways to do the work. You can join me on October 7th. You get a recorded version if you're not available on that day. It's a free online seminar, and it'll help you gain more clarity so that you can really refine your processes. And the goal again with all of this is so that you can start doing what you need to do. Why am I doing this and all these free stuff? It's because I want us to get to a certain point where we are now beginning to make that consistent income that will allow us to do even more for our business, because we have bigger dreams than just, looking for change within the business. So I want us to get to that point where we're making a certain amount of money that you can even start dreaming bigger or implementing the bigger dreams that you have for your business.